May I request Professor Vikas Dhawan to kindly formally welcome our speakers and the chair, please.
At the onset, my greetings to one and all who is present here. So, I'd like to introduce Dr. Madan Chaturvedi ji to start with. He happens to be our provost at SGT University, ex-director, Cluster Innovation Center at Delhi. And he has been Dean Research Life Sciences, Head of Department Zoology. Then he was also a visiting professor with MD Anderson Cancer Center, Houston, USA. Welcome, sir. Then Ms. Shobha Bugai, who happens to be the present professor and director, Cluster Innovation Center, Delhi University, and is a professor in mathematics, innovative educator. Then Dr. Jyoti Sharma, professor Maths Education, coordinator Meta University program, which is a unique program run by Delhi University in collaboration with Jamia Millia. And she also spearheaded the national program on gifted children education. So I welcome all the speakers of the session and would request Madan ji to chair.
Thank you, sir. Our honorable speaker, Professor Shobha Bugai, has joined us. We welcome you, ma'am. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin. I invite the first speaker, Professor Madan Mohan Chaturvedi, advisor cum provost, SGT University. And the topic of the second session of the day is Cluster Education, Innovation and Experiments, Delhi University and FYUP 2013-14.
Honorable Professor Dinesh Singh ji, the senior functionary from SGT University, the speakers, Shobha and Jyoti, I'm using their first name because I happen to know them so well, the teachers from the SGT University, students, media persons, friends. You know, I didn't intend to speak in any of the sessions, but for some of the reason, I'm switching my role from SGT University and going back into memory lane. और memory lane में कुछ कहानियाँ बतानी है मुझे आपको. वैसे भी ये post lunch session है, and post lunch session काफी difficult session होता है. एक तो audience वैसे भी कम हो जाते हैं. फिर I'm a student of biology. So your brain starves out of oxygen because oxygen starts being diverted to the stomach. So you start feeling drowsy and sleepy, which is typical of the post-lunch session. So that's what I thought I will not speak anything, and there are many learned people who will speak about it. Essentially what we thought of in this session doing so, since morning you had been listening to, in a very, very elegant way, the speakers, very accomplished, learned speakers about philosophy of new education policy. But let me tell you, what we decided that if a lot of philosophy has been told, and people still are asking, oh, NEP is a very confused statement, they have talked about everything, and philosophy doesn't translate into action, so how do we implement NEP? So we decided, let us talk about some success stories. And these success stories are in different format. One format is the prototype of the NEP was started in 2011 at University of Delhi. And when I say prototype, I think everybody understands in a startup culture, innovation culture, that means this prototype was later became a successful model, and you are going to hear that in that successful model. तो सिंस आई विल यूज़ द मिक्स लैंग्वेज, तो मैंने कहा कि अतीत में ले जाने के लिए 2011 में मैं ले चलूँ तो एक ऐसी विचार, चूँकि हम लोग के पूर्व कुलपति और हम लोग के मेंटर भी हमारे एक तरह से रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन्होंने मुझे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन करना सिखाया। मैं बहुत दूर भागता था एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से, और एक छोटी छोटी चीज़ें एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का मैंने सीखी है सर से। तो उनका ये एक विजन और उनका एक सोच समाज एक समय से हमेशा अलग होती थी। तो उन्होंने एक ऐसी सोच बनाई कि एक शिक्षा में एक आमूल चूल परिवर्तन किया जाए। क्यों किया जाए? बहुत सिंपल, आप सवेरे से सुन रहे हैं कि उद्देश्य क्या है शिक्षा का। तो व्यक्ति का निर्माण अलग अलग फॉर्म में आपने सुना, साथ साथ समाज का निर्माण। समाज और व्यक्ति दोनों को मिला देंगे तो व्यक्ति के निर्माण में तो बहुत दोनों चीज़ें हैं, आपने बड़ी अच्छे से फिलॉसफी सुनी। लेकिन समाज के निर्माण में शिक्षा में क्या क्या बदलाव किया जाए, बड़ी छोटी छोटी चीज़ें जैसे मैं आपको शेयर करूंगा और बाद में एक्सपीरियंस के रूप में और भी सुनेंगे आपको। जैसे कि आपने कोर्स तो डिज़ाइन कर दिया, स्टूडेंट्स ने एडमिशन भी ले लिया, आपने पढ़ाना भी शुरू कर दिया, लेकिन कभी आपने सोचा कि उस व्यक्ति की और क्या क्या परेशानी, क्योंकि हमारा देश का की विविधता बड़ी अलग है, बहुत एक होमोजेनाइजेशन यूनिटी कल्चर में नहीं है, इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस में नहीं है। तो कभी किसी ने क्या सोचा कि ऐसा क्यों होता है? एक छोटा सा डेटा सर ने निकाला कि अच्छा दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में पूरा पैम्फलेट निकलता है, मीडिया में निकलता है, पेपर में निकलता है, एडमिशन बिगिंस 99.9%, 100% मार्क्स कट ऑफ एडमिशंस, बट व्हाट हैपेंस दिस एजुकेशन एंड एवरीथिंग व्हाट एवर वी डिड वाज बेस्ड ऑन द डेटा एंड सर्वे बेस्ड। छोटा सा सर्वे हुआ, ड्रॉप आउट रेट क्या है? अब इमेजिन कर सकते हैं दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय इसमें ड्रॉप आउट रेट बहुत हाई निकला कि फर्स्ट ईयर में इतने एडमिशन होते हैं, थर्ड ईयर में आते थे क्या उतने ग्रेजुएट होते हैं? नहीं होते। क्यों ड्रॉप आउट होते हैं? और ड्रॉप आउट होते हैं तो बेचारे बिना डिग्री के चले गए। क्यों चले गए बिना डिग्री के? भाई एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल मैंने इसलिए दिया कि आप सोचिए, सोचने में बड़ी सोचिए, लेकिन समाज के विकास में उस हम ड्रॉप आउट को कैसे एड्रेस करें, या उनको छोड़ दें कि अरे उन्हें किन्हीं कारणों से छोड़ दिया, पढ़े नहीं, बहुत सारी बातें हो सकती हैं। लेकिन ये होगा क्या कुछ ऐसा हम कोर्स बनाते हैं जिसमें कि भाई फर्स्ट ईयर में अगर ड्रॉप आउट करता भी है तो कुछ एक डिग्री मिल जाए, उसको आगे कर सके। सेकेंड ईयर में भी अगर ड्रॉप आउट करना चाहता है तो एक ले ले। आजकल वो पूछ रहे हैं ना कि एग्जिट प्रोग्राम्स NEP में। दिस एग्जिट प्रोग्राम वॉज अ वेरी वेल थॉट in 2011 in Delhi University, what we call at that time the 4 years program. So first year dropout, second, but we didn't want to call it dropout. Dropout gives you very negative connotations, and the poor fellow students remain very demoralized at that point. So what I'm trying to say, just giving one example, what people, लेकिन अब कोर्स बनाने में कि अब dropout को हम छोड़ दिए, dropout में तो भाई उसकी गलती है। हम कहते हैं exit है, इसका मतलब कोर्स का डिज़ाइन within 1 year it should complete within itself. और ये भी पर्पज नहीं है कि हमें अलग से सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स बना दिया कि तुमको छोड़ना है तो तुम ये वाला कोर्स लेके जाओ। So it was a challenge, and today it's also a challenge. People have to work out how do we design my curriculum in a seamless manner where each year is complete within itself. And that was successfully launched, successfully tested at that time. I just give you one example of thinking of a students, thinking of, so this was a learner-centric, I always say it's not a student-centric. Our programs were designed and learners. So 4-year program, which is basically prototype and essence, and if I'm not wrong, and a public forum, I'm telling, I think this has been acknowledged, not in writing, but in many forum, in speeches, that today's NEP is nothing but the 4-year program which Delhi University has launched in 2012 under the leadership of Mr. Dinesh Singh ji. So this was a one kind of a thing. But when we subsequently came into designing a curriculum and other, rest they are going to tell you, my colleagues will tell you about that. So then we came out with and a famous saying, I'm borrowing, sir, from you, when the center was designed and we are all bogged down by too many rules, regulation, and statute and ordinance, that he always says, the rule of the Innocent Center is written on the stone, that nothing is written on the stone. So the moment you start binding the institution within the rules, regulation, structure, this and that means we are going to kill it. The program will never become successful. So the kind of flexibility and freedom, and morning he alluded to, actually first an example you are going to hear from Dr. Shobha Bagai, who is now heading the institution, and Jyoti. Then came about, there was a data, I forget the exact number, that how many youths are passing out after 12, and can we provide higher education to all of them? And so then a calculation was done that if you want to replicate Delhi University kind of a structure to provide education, higher education to everybody, it is a mind-boggling and impossible in a country like India that you can create institutions like that. That means you have to completely think of a ab initio, a new paradigm has to be thought of it. And one paradigm simply was, you do little analysis of our education institutions. There are best of institutions, but each one is not being used at the best ability. They're performing best courses, they're specialized in, so can we combine what you call a meta concepts? So that means, and again the stories will be told that at that time didn't exist, that how can a student study at two places? And how can a degree have to sign by two vice chancellor, two registrar, say two logos, a single degree? So, but that was happened, simply rule had to be changed, and the program is still running, it's still at a small level. So similarly, why can't there be meta college concepts? And now in the new education policy, similar thing has been said that instead of creating new structures, which will be cost intensive, India cannot afford that, and also it's not needed also, we can start creating these meta structures. And both meta college and meta university, both were. In fact, meta university we wanted to start in a very big way, for some reason it didn't happen. So what I'm simply trying to do is, the education had to, and one of the whole program, you are going to hear the experiences from the students as well. The whole program was learner-centric. And one of the first tagline of the center was again designed by the students. What is it? Dissolving boundary, evolving senses. This is the tagline of the center, which was designed by the first batch of the students. And if I have to tell the stories, I don't want to go into because the time is short and we have to hear the actual stories, but we started it without having anything. The 40 chair, the garden chair, we bought into, I still remember the cost, and we had it. Many times students sat on the floor. We had an international speaker and lectures while students are sitting on the floor and other. And a few experiences, we ever said, no student we ever want to see in the classroom. Get out of the classroom. Never see in the classroom, but you come back. Then we'll debate, discuss project, and teacher's role is entirely different. No teacher is more of a mentoring and facilitation. Very little teaching. And you heard in the morning itself, if you're going to teach it, you're going to kill the subject. Don't teach it. Students are much smarter than that. And all of you feel today's kids are much smarter than we underestimate them. And we start, and Prasanna Prakash also said, ये course teacher का course हो जाता है, learner course नहीं होता. But such a subtle way, you see how the psychology is telling you so much of an intense thing when a students tell the course is of my teacher's name. That means they don't own it. How do you make them to own it? But anyway, so these are the few experiments, and now I am at SGT University, and we want to take you in a different stream. I have switched my role from SGT to gone back as a former Delhi University professor and former CIC, and I still will love it, and those memories are always cherished, and the leadership was unparalleled, unprecedented. We also became learner. I mean, so many things I learned being a director, so-called director. I used to sit in each classrooms. And mathematicians, physicists, evening where he used to be the creative writing, poetry, Hindi, English, and we'll have a group of students who were all enjoying. And the people, big dignitaries were loving, they were coming and interacting with the students. Still, I hope that's continuing so well. We will tell about. So these are a few things which I'm going to say. NEP is, so how नहीं बनाई है वो? बहुत simplified structure है. Philosophy बहुत है उसमें. आपके पास flexibility बहुत है. अगर हम गवर्नमेंट के पास भागेंगे तो गवर्नमेंट तो रूल भी दिखाएगी हमें. उनको तो इसमें मजा आता है कि आप पूछेंगे क्या करें तो बता देंगे करिए. आपको पूछने की जरूरत नहीं. उसमें भी एक जोक है. सर ने कभी सुनाया था, मैं नहीं सुनाऊंगा, आपको छोटी सी कहानी है. पूछिए ही मत ना आप जाके. जब आपको कहा गया कि आपको फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है तो है. अब ये हमारे ऊपर है कि हम उसको कैसे एक्सरसाइज करके अपने कोर्स स्ट्रक्चर को या अपने अट्रैक्टिव बनाने. कहा जाता है कि स्टूडेंट्स को पूछिए क्या पढ़ना चाहता है, डिज़ाइन योर डिग्री, पूरी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी दे देगी. हम लोग कस्टमाइज करते थे. फर्स्ट ईयर पढ़ाने के बाद पूरा कस्टमाइज करते थे. स्वभाव और बताएंगे कि क्या पढ़ना, उस हिसाब से मेंटर जुटाते थे. क्या उतने टीचर हो सकते हैं? लोग गिनते हैं. नैक पूछता है कि आपके पास कितने टीचर हैं. हम लोग के पास तो कुल 10-12 टीचर थे, लेकिन 100 मेंटर थे हमारे, 100 मेंटर्स. Not necessarily, so that means meta structure not only in terms of building and infrastructure, in terms of facilitators, mentors, I can have a whole world is ours. We can keep approaching any people who has expertise, we'll invite them, come and give a lecture, interact with the students and create it, and we'll list them. So there are, if we want to do it today, there are possibility of doing that, and I think SGT would take a lead, and that's one of the purpose of this conference, of having that. Let us SGT become a leader in implementing NEP among the universities, among the private universities, or in the other university in Delhi and NCR, and we will also pass to the other institutions that how the NEP has to be implemented by the success story. And SGT has a lot more. So Dhawan will tell about SGT about it. So I will not take more time, and thank you all, and rest is the floor is the speakers. You will hear from the horse's mouth what is all happening about. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very encouraging speech. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have Professor Shobha Bagai, Director, Cluster Innovation Center, University of Delhi. Please join me in welcoming ma'am.
Wherever you feel comfortable. And I can call the students also. So a very, very good afternoon to all of you. In fact, right now तो मेरी स्थिति ऐसे है, मेरे को स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं, तो जब हम उनको उनकी क्लास में बोलते हैं कि प्रेजेंटेशंस दो, तो आई एम श्योर उनके दिल में कुछ दुख की बैठ करती होगी, तो मेरी स्थिति बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है, बिकॉज आई एम आस्क्ड टू स्पीक ऑन समथिंग वेयर माय मेंटर्स आर सिटिंग, यू नो, वन इज ऑन द स्टेज एंड द अदर इज इन द ऑडियंस. So it's like that for me, but anyhow, since I've been given this, responsibility. Thank you, Professor Chaturvedi, for setting the ball rolling, in fact. So I think some of the things, he has already mentioned about it. So when we talk about the NEP, and हम लोग कभी भी कोई एक मॉडल बनाते हैं, बाजार में जब ले जाना होता है, so we always look at the prototype. And when we look at the prototype, we try to see that how successful it can be, what can be the challenges, how it can be improved if we actually want to scale up. Once when this national education policy, the document was released, and of course, we are also going through it, being into the education. So you're always looking into it, to try to see that what is this, the new policy talks about the education. And, since we are from the higher education, so naturally you wanted to look at that paragraph where it talked about that, what is expected in the higher education institutes. Point एक पढ़ा, अच्छा ये तो हम लोग कर रहे हैं. दूसरा point पढ़ा, ये भी हम लोग कर रहे हैं. We kept reading it, and at the end of the thing we felt this is something which we are already implementing it from 10 years. And if I talk in terms of the students, so we already had students who were excited about this idea. By the time they all passed out, and when you keep meeting your alumni, you keep taking their feedback, I don't think so I found a single student of any of the 3 courses that we run at CIC, which I'll just talk about it in a little moment. Not a single student was disgruntled or they felt dissatisfied that we did not gain anything from that institute. And that actually, the fact comes to us, जो student in fact जो दिल्ली से बाहर है, हमारा कोई भी alumni है, हमारे कोई भी course का, once when they come back to Delhi, one thing they make sure is to get connected to their alma mater. And they are still connected to us. How it is, I'll again explain it. So as Professor Chaturvedi said, the Cluster Innovation Center was of course started in 2011. The idea basically was that learning and innovation needs to go hand in hand. And the education, that has been being imparted, we are also a part of that system. But the way the current generation is progressing, it's an exponential rate. And the way we are imparting the education, that is no longer in fact sufficient for the current generation. And the change is required. That's in fact a constant thing that is there, in creativity we might call it, or the growth that we might call it. And I think somewhere or the other, it was that mindset which I'm sure led to the starting of the Cluster Innovation Center in 2011, with the first course, which we now call it as the BTech in IT and Mathematical Innovations. So we started off with 40 students. The first batch was in 2011. And, I was teaching in a conventional course in the regular colleges, we were teaching our students in almost a similar fashion in which we had learned it, So there is a syllabus, so, I'm going to be a little careful about this because as in the morning it was differentiated, the syllabus is different from the curriculum part of it. So we were given a syllabus, we were teaching our students in the syllabus, and we would be very proud of ourselves, if our students had scored well in a paper. Now, once when we were inducted into the Cluster Innovation Center, there were two things, which actually struck me. One is that every student needs to have an association with the theory that a student is doing in a class with a project. Now, being from a maths discipline, it was very difficult for me personally to envisage. I could understand experiments being done in physics, how you can relate physics, sciences with something that is happening in the society and something that you are doing in the theory. For maths, for me, it basically meant, that maybe at the most you are doing certain practicals on computer science, कुछ आप अपना programming कर ले रहे हो, कुछ अलग तरीके से सोच रहे हो. But how do we translate certain, set subjects that we have into mathematics into project was a huge, huge challenge for us. And another burden as a teacher for us was how do we translate that to the students? Because the group that we intake, those are the students who are coming in class 12th. From class 12, they are already into that mold कि आपके पास ये book है, ये syllabus है, ये CBSE का set pattern है, and अगर हमारे पास so-called BTech में आ रहा है, तो BTech का एक नजरिया होता है कि engineering में आ रहा है, तो वो JEE का exam की preparation से करके आ रहा होता है. उसको अगर आप डिफिकल्ट से डिफिकल्ट इंटीग्रेशन का प्रॉब्लम दे दो, वो शायद हमसे जल्दी सॉल्व कर लेगा. But how do I change that mindset? And by I don't mean me personally, as a center completely. How do we change that perception of a student that, look, learning is much beyond that? And the challenge was more, as I said before, because I myself, or we ourselves first had to adopt to that methodology. Can it be different? And only then can I translate it to our students. The second was the concept of an engineering kitchen. So the word engineering kitchen, it was very, very fascinating because as I said that if you have these conventional papers in sciences, so you have physics, you have chemistry, in any syllabus that you see that you will have a set pattern of the experiments that are done, which our students need to do it, and in the end you are basically examined on those set experiments. Now the concept of engineering kitchen was like, as a woman, when you go to a kitchen, the ingredients are there for you. Can you be innovative into your cooking and bring out new dishes? So the same was the case of the engineering kitchen. वो अभी सुबह भी बात हुई थी tinkering की. That tinkering we started way back in 2011 कि आपके पास यहाँ पे कोई set experiment नहीं होगा, instruments होगा, सोचो कि आप क्या कर सकते हो, और आपको लगे कि यहाँ पे नहीं है, then tell us, we will get into that. And there was one student in our first batch, he was so imaginative, he says कि मैम हम यहाँ पे aeroplane बना सकते हैं क्या? So I was a little taken aback. But then मुझे था कि ना नहीं बोलना है सर कि ठीक है ट्राई करते हैं एरोप्लेन बनाने का. You won't believe by the end of the first semester he made a working model of the aeroplane in the engineering kitchen. So that is something which, and the thing is what we learned was कि again as it was said in the morning, the first thing we had to accept was we are not perfect. We don't know anything, but yes, if you are able to enable the students that, look, okay, you want to do that, let's encourage you. So our role changes from that of being a teacher to a mentor, to an enabler. And that, I think, what has led to the success of our students. We are not perfect. Our teaching is not perfect. Let me assure you that. Some of our students have done marvelously well. Another example I would like to give you is AR, VR is very much in talk right now. This was almost around, I think, 5 or 6 years back. There were some students, so the project is a very, very integral part of our curriculum. And the students, basically, the way, the students get motivated is because they earn credits through these projects. So these were the first year students. Again, sometimes there is this perception amongst the outside world that first year student kya karega. And some of the students do find difficulty in getting their internship in the market outside. But for the first year students, we say, okay, let's try to build up the skills that we cannot do in the regular classes. So Unity has just started, and we said, okay, let's start this course. We downloaded an online course on the Unity, and we said, okay, together we'll do this course. So, as a mentor, because, when all the teachers were sitting there, you'll realize that as a teacher, if you have to take a 1 hour class, you really have to spend 4 or 5 hours in preparing it, because the students can ask a question from anywhere. So prepare karte the, go in the class, discuss them, given them also the access to that course and everything. So I used to go preparing 4 or 5 hours for that 1 hour lecture. Class में गए तो पता लगा वो तो और आगे बढ़ गए हैं. तो फिर क्या करें? So then all those students who had moved ahead, there was a group of 10 students, so we'd ask the students to present it. And after 3 or 4 lectures, I gave up. The students picked it up themselves. Out of that group, there is one particular student, he is now in Australia, and he has set up the AR/VR lab in one of the reputed colleges of the University of Delhi. That college had the NAC accreditation. They got the top rank of NAC accreditation. And what he did there was, he asked the principal not to give to the NAC the usual PowerPoint presentation. He said, let's do a 3D vision presentation. And that student was still a student. Unfortunately, हम लोग CIC में वो नहीं कर पाए because of some other issues that were there. As Professor Chaturvedi said that, sometimes there are rules and regulations which bound you to do it. But one thing that we found out at Cluster Innovation Center was that whatever are the rules and regulations, it might put an outward boundary on you. But as an individual, one is still free within those boundaries, to do experimentation. And that is what we have been following up at Cluster Innovation Center. The second course that started in the Cluster Innovation Center, which was in 2011, which was the BA Honours, we now call it as the BA Honours in Humanities and Social Sciences, make your own degree. But yes, when it started in 2012, it was termed as the BTech in Humanities. And then there were certain reasons why the nomenclature and everything had to be changed. Now the idea again over there was that if you are really wanting to give the flexibility to the students, there are logistics issues which come, which again Professor Chaturvedi, some of it is illustrated, is you cannot have that much of faculty. And every year the new batch that comes, whether the batch size is of 40 or 60 to 100, in that batch size, कई दफा तो होता है कि सभी 100 के 100, सभी 60 के 60 जो है वो अलग दिशा में अपना जाना चाहते हैं. अब इतनी फैकल्टी कहाँ से लाओगे आप? Then in that case, can that expertise which is already available at different places, can that be tapped? And just to give a simple example, in Delhi University, if a student has opted for any of the undergraduate courses, and the student wants to have economics and physics as a combination, it is not allowed. Apart that, maybe if they are doing physics honors, maybe they can take economics as a minor, or what we used to call it at an earlier time as a subsidiary. The converse is not allowed. But these students, if they were interested in following a course in physics and either philosophy or economics, they could take it. But again, after having mentioning that, कहना बहुत आसान है, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करने में उसमें अपने अपने challenges आते थे. So over the 10 years, we have now worked out the challenges. Some of the challenges have been ironed out. And sometimes some of the flexibility do get curbed also because of these challenges, but still the flexibility is there. Then in 2013, under the Meta University concept, we started this MSc course, which is called as the MSc in Mathematics Education, which was in collaboration with the Jamia Millia Islamia University. Of course, I will not talk more about it because my colleague from my same department, she will illustrate more about it. But if I have to look at a common thread, that passes through all the three courses, the first and the foremost is the project-based learning, and what we have been seeing since the morning, the hands-on usage of your hands. That is something, again, as I say, that without an exception, any of our alumni which comes back to us and we ask them, that what are the take-backs that you take from the institute, they say, ma'am, जो हम लोगों ने projects किए थे ना, वो प्रोजेक्ट्स हमें जो है हमारे पेयर्स से ऊपर तो रखता ही है, irrespective from where our peers are coming, even if they are coming from the best of the institutes. But कुछ लोग जो हम लोगों से ज़्यादा भी कर चुके हैं, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट के हैं, PhD के हैं, वो हमें उनसे भी ऊपर रखता है. That is the feedback that we get. The second is, again, when we talk about is that once when you are going in the outside world is not very smooth out over there. They will have problems, right? And they will have challenges out over there. The second common thing that each and every student tells us is, मैम जब वो बोलते हैं कि प्रॉब्लम है, चैलेंज है, तो सबसे पहले हमारे दिमाग में आता है कि हम कर लेंगे. That's a kind of the confidence that they carry with them. The third advantage basically of having these hands-on project learning is, so many of the universities are adopting the national education policy into their curriculum in the different way. In the University of Delhi, we have division between what is called as a discipline-specific course. So basically, if you're doing maths and IT, you'll have certain papers in that. You also have a certain set of papers which are called as general electives, जो आप अपने discipline से अलग हट करके लेते हैं, and discipline-specific electives. अब आप electives चाहे जितने मर्जी float कर लीजिएगा, 10 float कर लीजिएगा, 20 float कर लीजिएगा. In this ever-changing world, आज आपकी नीड क्या है, कल आपकी नीड क्या है, आपको नहीं पता है. तो अगर आप ये कोर्सेज जो है सेट कर लेते हैं कि ये सिलेबस होना चाहिए है, ये बुक होना चाहिए है, तो ये मान करके चलिए कि और कुछ नहीं तो कम से कम जितनी मर्जी यूनिवर्सिटी हो 3 या 4 साल तक तो आप उसमें थोड़ा सा बंध गए हैं. बट इसमें क्या होता है, आपकी सोसाइटी प्रॉब्लम्स चेंज होती है. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल इन बिटवीन वी हैड द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ डीमोनेटाइजेशन. डीमोनेटाइजेशन था तो तब आपके पास व्हाट वाज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ द इकोनॉमी. द स्टूडेंट्स पिक दैट अप within their projects to study what is its effect. So that is a kind of a flexibility that these projects in fact give us. और भी इसका होता है कि the students, when it is not there in a prescribed syllabi, they go out, they learn themselves about it, they study themselves. एंड हम चाहे क्लास में मैं जितना मर्जी मैथ्स पढ़ा लूँ, फिजिक्स पढ़ा लूँ, किसी एक बच्चे को याद ही नहीं होगा कि मैंने क्लास में क्या किया है. बट those students who study specifically for that problem कि I have to solve this problem and this is the thing that is required to me, that is something that a student never ever forgets. That leads to a research-oriented mindset. And we do have examples where our undergraduate students, first year students or second year students, so they have published research papers in reputed journals. And as a researcher, एक तो हम बात करते हैं अपनी publications की, दूसरी हम बात करते हैं कि हमारे पेपर की citation कितनी है, कितना उन लोगों ने किसी और ने हमारे पेपर को रेफर किया है. And when I talk about these papers which the students have published. I am talking not only about publishing it in reputed journals, but they have citations. And some of the papers would have more number of citations than what I would have had in my 25 years of career. This is, I think, what makes a difference in their life. And, so that none of you think that I am just talking about it, I am now going to request one of the students, Mr. Gitansh Saxena, our alumni from the Cluster Innovation Center. So Gitansh, if I can have you on the stage, to share his experiences that how this has helped him and his other peers, whether they are seniors and juniors, how it has helped him, taking into account what is happening around them. So over to you, Gitansh.
Greetings, everyone. A very good afternoon. And wow, there's a lot to talk about CIC. And Shobha ma'am and I have spent like countless hours talking about the course structure, talking about the problems that the students are facing and how to solve them. But like, what does CIC do differently that it is able to produce such outcomes? Students studying in prestigious colleges like CMU, London Business School, Illinois, having internships in very reputed research institutions like CERN and IBM's and research centers of Microsoft and Facebook, etc. What is CIC doing differently? To me, it boils down to this one saying that we have. How we do anything is how we do everything. And that's what CIC actually teaches us. So in a typical college, we have this thing called sub-semester projects or subject-specific projects. But in CIC, we have this thing called innovation project, where a student takes up a problem, any problem of any field, of any kind, uses the tools and concepts that were taught to him in the classroom and applies it to solve a problem that has not been solved before, or rather, actually research a new area that has rarely been worked upon. So, in these innovation projects, students don't really have any outlines, any guidelines, or any key points that they need to follow. Rather, they don't even have to follow the syllabus. They just need to use the concepts that were taught to them and apply them to a problem that has not been solved before. And we are graded on that. We are graded on the innovation that we're doing in a particular field. We are graded on the innovative idea, the problem that we are being solved, rarely on how much it aligns to the syllabus of the subject. So through these projects, what we develop is a mindset that Bagai ma'am has already talked about. A mindset that koi bhi problem aa jaye, solve kar lenge. Because through this open-ended system of developing projects and studying things, we develop this methodology, a pattern in our brain to actually take up any problem in any field and at least give it a shot, give it a try. Let's see what happens when we do this. Use the concepts that were taught to us, not only in college, but rather in the other various experiences in our lives, and see how a solution comes up. So through these projects, I'll take up a personal story though. So via these personal projects, I had this opportunity to explore a territory of cryptography and machine learning, both rather being the opposite. And cryptography is known for producing randomness in a system, and machine learning is known for recognizing patterns and predicting them. So quite the opposites. But through the independence that I was given in my course structure, I actually explored this territory of application of cryptography in machine learning. And it led me to achieve something that rarely any student gets to do. It was actually serving as a tech lead, as a project mentor in a research institution in DRDO. I was there guiding PhDs, I was there guiding other master students, other research interns, or rather giving talks on the subject that were attended by various professors and researchers of IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, and various researchers in DRDO. And other students have also had countless other experiences. There are friends of mine who are guiding and serving as researchers in institutions where rarely a few people get to go. There are students who got selected to work, like only 3 or 4 students get selected each year for this. So a student got selected to work with other PhD students at CERN, all right there being with us, studying a bachelor's degree. So this is what CIC actually teaches. Through this meta concept, through the multidisciplinary nature of the system, we are able to study, like I've seen students using calculus in geography, using applying, let's say, partial differential equations to how stitching and tailoring is done, defining patterns in them. That's where it hits us, that this is a different course and we are fortunate to be a part of it. We have developed this mindset that given any problem, we can solve it. And I guess that's the first step to solving and really taking up impossible challenges, to actually believe that you can solve them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gitansh. So I would just like to, quote, in fact, a few of these statements from the NEP document that we have. So if you are looking at the 11.5, it talks about imaginative and flexible curricular structure will enable creative combinations of discipline of study. Then if I look at the point 11.6, it again talks about the flexibility in curriculum. It talks about the novelty, engaging course options, which must be offered to students in addition to the rigorous specialization in subject. And that, in fact, will lead to the, the overall development of the students. And if I go to the point 11.8, it talks about that if we have to do that, that should include the credit-based courses and projects. So this is what has now come in the statement of the National Education Policy in 2020. So I've talked about the project-based learning, I've talked about the undergraduate research. The next point, that I want to actually take up is we have a very, very strong culture, in fact, of peer learning. Again, I think it has been going on since the morning that the students have to be encouraged to learn in a newer way. If I am a teacher, sometimes, I am confined to a certain classroom, maybe I don't have that exposure to the industry. But when we talk about the projects and these students go out to the various industry, they come to know that, okay, in the real world, this is something new that is happening, which has still not come to the academia. These workshops at our center are held by the students who come and mentor the peers and tell them that, look, this is what is happening in the industry, start preparing yourself accordingly. Now this helps us that we are the students, in fact, they don't feel lagging behind as to what is needed by the industry. And this doesn't happen. These are the 2 courses, the undergraduate courses, if I talk about it, the 2 undergraduate courses that we have at Cluster Innovation Center. One is a BTech, one is a BA Humanities. Seemingly, it might seem that they both are diametrically opposite courses, one doing a technology, totally science-based, and one is the humanities, totally social sciences-based. But when we do the projects, we try to bring, this is our endeavor, we try to bring the students from both the courses together. And as a result, what happens when we talk about that students can choose courses, from different streams, I would like to give over here 2 examples, particular examples. We had a student in BA Humanities. He did a project with students of the BTech. Right now, He is doing his doctoral program from an esteemed university outside India, and his topic of his research is use of AI in social sciences. So he has managed, to amalgamate what he learned about the AI. He learned those techniques of the AI. Social sciences was his background, amalgamated the two, and that's where he's doing the research. Another example I would like to give is, when we intake the students, specifically for the BTech students, most of the engineering colleges have this thing that the student has to have the science stream, maths, physics, and chemistry. The eligibility criteria for our institution is that you need to have maths till class 12th. I don't even know how much relevant right now it is over there. Student can come up, if he's interested, he clears the test, let him come over there. But this student, he came from a commerce background in class 12th. In the interview, that was the time we were still holding the interviews for the selection process. In the interview, when we asked them, that what brought you into the stream, so he said ki ma'am, aap logon ki BTech mein na, you have a substream what is called as economics and management. By the way, let me mention over here, so our BTech course has IT and maths as their core papers, but we have 3 streams following from there. One is the economics and management stream, one is the system biology, and the third is electronics, embedded system, robotics. He says, since you have management over there, and I would get a tag of BTech also, so mujhe laga jo main commerce college mein kar raha hu, isse acha let me come over here, so I'll be able to do management. In the first year, when I said we used to have these workshops for students, first year we make it compulsory, students को नहीं अच्छा लगता, so अब काफी unpopular हो जाते हैं कि मैडम या सर हम लोगों को जबरदस्ती workshop में बिठा देते हैं, but वो एक compulsion हम लोग बच्चों के संग करते हैं. So we had this workshop for the Robotics Society. He got so excited by this, he shifted his stream from the management to the robotics. He is now with one of the leading company of robotics. They have their company in India also, but right now, of course, he's in Canada. Now, these are the mindsets that keep changing once when the students are exposed to these multidisciplinary aspects. GSOC, if somebody would have heard, it's quite a prestigious thing. So initially, there were a few students who cracked GSOC, they got into that. But that sense of competitiveness, if I know it, I'm not going to let the other people know because they might go ahead of me, has never been a part of any CICN. The first thing that comes in the mind is, I got selected, how can I give it back to the other students so that we have more representations of CIC into it. They started their own thing which was called as the CISOC, Cluster Innovation School of Coding, right? So my students will endorse that. The workshops that we do have our own challenges. कई दफ़ा हम लोगों के पास teachers नहीं होता है, guest teachers लाने में, ad hoc teachers लाने में काफ़ी papers वगैरह निकालने पड़ते हैं. What we do it is we ask the seniors and alumni to pitch in. They come, they teach the paper, the courses. The students are much happier than us. They say कि मैम सारा course इनके साथ करा दो, and even if we want to give honorarium to our students, the students don't accept it. So हमारे लिए होता है कि एक थोड़ा सा फ्री में हो भी जाता है, but the students actually want to give back to them. They want to come, they want to do it. And for the peer learning, I'm again going to invite one of my students, Vinay, can you please come up on the stage and talk about a little experience that, how does the peer learning help the students?
Thank you, ma'am, and I think it's good evening, everyone present over here. So I won't take much of time. I'll just try to wrap it up as soon as possible. So first of all, thank you to my professors and thank you to SGT University for providing this amazing platform. So now I would be emphasizing about the peer learning concept that has been at CIC since day 0, I guess. Yeah, from the stories that I have heard from my professors and seniors and alumni, it has been there since day 0. One example for that is, as already Professor Chaturvedi sir has mentioned and Bhagya ma'am has mentioned, there used to be engineering kitchen at CIC. So initially there was no setup. There was no setup in the labs or engineering kitchen. There were no electronic components or robotic components or anything. So what used to happen is our professors and our students along with them, they used to go to the market and they used to go visit the shops where the electronic items are sold, and they used to get it from there. So yeah, that is how CIC has started, I guess. So as already Professor Chaturvedi sir has mentioned, the tagline of CIC is dissolving boundaries and evolving senses. So in the morning I have started thinking like how my journey can be related to this tagline. So yeah, that's when it started making sense to me. So I don't know about other colleges, but at CIC, like in other colleges, what happens is students kind of set themselves some boundaries between the seniors, between their alumni, or between the professors. But one thing I have observed at CIC is there have been never boundaries that have been set between a particular batch of students, between seniors, juniors, or even professors, as to mention, in the terms of knowledge sharing or in terms of teaching concepts to one another. One example for this is one of my classmates, he started giving a presentation about biotechnology, a concept of biotechnology. So one of the professor in the board who was marking the presentation, they were not aware of that. So the professor started asking more questions, and they were so much interested that they started learning about it from the student itself. They asked the student to send the resources, teach me this, how this works and all. So yeah, that's how peer learning used to work. It's not only one way. It used to work two ways, like in any way possible, basically. So sometimes juniors used to learn from seniors, seniors used to learn from juniors, and sometimes even professors used to learn from us. So it worked in every way. So initially, when we came as freshers, our seniors used to take orientation classes and orientations, basically, a basic orientation. We used to be sitting in the class in our break period, and our seniors used to visit, and they used to just interact with us. Like, how are the classes, like, how are the assignments, how are the projects and all. In the very first week itself, and they used to guide us, like you can manage your personal time and your professional time, like in the time at the college for making assignments and all. And they used to even give us guidance about what career path you can choose, like, because they have already done some internships or research projects somewhere, like in other institutions or other companies already, because they have been at CIC for 2-3 years, and they used to guide us like, these are the career path that you can choose, and these are the research opportunities that you can pursue, or with these professors you can work. So they used to give us a guidance, they used to provide us a path. So I think this happens at most of the colleges, but what I'm going to say after this is what I found fascinating at CIC. So after the orientations, one thing at CIC what we have is student-driven communities and societies. So we have robotics society and we have a computer science society. So there everything is managed by students with the support from professors, and there our seniors used to invite industry experts and even alumni, and even our seniors themselves, they used to take workshops in different career paths and in different fields. So that used to give us a crisp view of how our life is going to be if we join this particular career path, if we choose to go towards AR, VR as ma'am mentioned, or if we choose to go towards robotics, or if we choose to go towards software development. So that used to give us a picture, like a point of view, like how our career is going to be if we used to go, if we choose that path. That used to happen in first year itself. So that gives us a roadmap, I guess, roadmap to see where we can go, like which path we can choose. So that is how societies and workshops used to work. And after that, our professors, yes, for sure. As a professor said, they used to invite our seniors, like I remember, I'll just give one example. Right now, one of our alumni, he taught us microeconomics. That was one of our subject, and right now he's in Australia. He's pursuing his master's in quantitative finance. So the way he taught us microeconomics, so like microeconomics can be learned from textbooks also, but the way he taught us by connecting it with the industry, that was really fascinating, that it made me think how I can like connect these concepts with the upcoming industry trends. And yeah, like basically the alumni, when they teach us, they give us the industry point of view of the concepts. So that made it very interesting at CIC. So yeah, as I already mentioned, peer learning has been both ways. So it has been a great journey at CIC. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So, I've been told to keep it short, in fact. So, I had another student of mine, but Piyush, kindly excuse me, I may not be calling you right now. But he actually wanted to talk about it when I told you that we have two diverse undergraduate courses. So once when the students mingle, how it actually develops your thought process. Because, you do not have a lateral thinking process in that case, and then that gets expanded. And in the end, the other part that we said was, again in the morning it was mentioned that, an institution is judged where exactly are your students placed, what is the CTC that you are getting. Yes, our students do go out in the industries, they are placed in some of the good institutions, but one thing that we lay importance is entrepreneurship. Because this is always felt that, the creativity, once when they go out to the job, जो भी थोड़ी बहुत creativity बची है, वो भी खत्म हो जाएगी. So we have had success stories of entrepreneurship, for, it's the 7th batch that has actually passed out. So we are in the existence for almost a decade, but 6 batches have actually passed out. So out of these 6 batches, if I can tell that we have had at least, I'm lose count because some of the students, they are doing it, but I'm not into the knowledge of, but at least if 10 startups have come out over there, at least I feel very happy about it. And we don't talk about कि हमारे students कहाँ गए हैं. We actually talk about कि what is an entrepreneurship. Those are the ideas that is discussed. And if the chair permits me, I'll ask Pankaj. Pankaj is again one of our alumni who has started, who's doing this is his 2nd or the 3rd startup, I think so, right? So Pankaj, in just 2 minutes, exactly 2 minutes, kindly tell us about it.
Hello everyone, thank you Shobha Bagai ma'am for giving me this opportunity. So, to summarize what is a startup in one line, it is real world problem solving through interdisciplinary intervention. And if you look at the keywords that are present there, and you look at the keywords that are present at NEP 2020 or the CIC model, you will realize that most of the keywords actually match. And the way CIC helped us achieve really good success stories in the startup world, in actually any phase of life, is through these specific keywords. For example, projects were a major part of the credits that we scored in every semester from the very first semester itself. But the problem with just doing projects is there is no real world intervention unless you have some outside push. So every year from the first year itself, we were supposed to do internships. We were supposed to look for internships. And one secret that I would like to tell you about CIC is that we do not have a placement cell. That may come as a surprise to most of the university professors and VCs here, that CIC does not have a placement cell, and that is by design. Because if अगर आप स्विमिंग करने जाते हो और आपको ट्रेनर सिखाता रहे स्विमिंग करना, सिखाता रहे, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे यू विल नेवर लर्न स्विमिंग. बट जब आपको एक बार वो धक्का देता है, आप खुद से गिर जाते हो, एक बार गोता खाते हो, लिटरली पानी आपके मुंह के अंदर चला जाता है. दैट्स व्हेन यू रियलाइज कि हे, आई वोंट डाई, आई कैन स्विम. एंड by giving access to placement cell, what most universities I think do is they curb this ability of students to explore on their own what they can do and can't do. They are dependent on the college कि हाँ यार 3rd year 4th year में पहुँचेंगे, college निकलवा देगा, 4 लाख की तो मिल ही जाएगी placement. बट एट CIC फर्स्ट ईयर से आपको इस तरह से कॉन्फिडेंटली ट्रेन करते हैं कि यार आप प्रोजेक्ट्स करो, थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस मिलेगा, इंटर्नशिप करो, रियल वर्ल्ड एक्सपीरियंस मिलेगा, एंड बाय द टाइम यू रीच 4th ईयर और फाइनल ईयर, यू विल ऑलरेडी बी कॉन्फिडेंट एनफ, यू विल ऑलरेडी बी स्किल्ड एनफ, यू विल ऑलरेडी हैव एनफ नेटवर्क कि यू कैन गो टू एनी कंपनी एंड से कि हे, I deserve this and I'll get it. It doesn't matter I'm not from IT, it doesn't matter you have not heard the name of my college. I won't give up and I have the right skills, the right experiences to get there. And to just end this, a little more about myself. So 2019 I passed out from CIC's BTech batch. एंड मेरे फादर, मेरे पेरेंट्स सपोर्ट करते थे हर लेवल पे, बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे पेरेंट्स को भी अभी उतना नहीं आइडिया है कि यार स्टार्टअप क्या होता है. ही वाज लाइक यार गवर्नमेंट जॉब कर ले, बीटेक की हुई है, अच्छे माइक्रोसॉफ्ट गूगल में चले जाओ. बट एक फिलॉसफी जो CIC में सिखाई गई है यार कि इफ यू बिलीव इन योर विजन, इफ यू टेक ओनरशिप ऑफ द थिंग्स यू आर डूइंग, you need to have a I won't give up mentality. So at the peak of COVID, January of 2021, I launched a new social startup, Beyond Exams, and I secured over 1 crore worth of funding at the peak of COVID, जब पूरा market down था, पूरी economy down थी, and the entire philosophy behind Beyond Exams, the name itself suggests beyond exams जितना कुछ भी सीखना होता है. The entire philosophy is based on what CIC taught me and what NEP means for the education system. So to you all also, I would have the same suggestion कि हाँ यार government ने implementation की details नहीं दी हैं, but have the mentality that we won't give up and we will figure out, maybe not this year, maybe next year, but if we don't give up, we will figure it out on our own together. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj. So just to end it up, I would just like to read out a few points, which actually cautions us, and I am so thankful that the SGT University has given us this opportunity to talk about it, and I'm really sorry for taking up so much of our time, but this is a platform. I'm just trying to vent out, what we have done in 10 years, what we would like to share with you. But again, once some of the things that teaches is, first is that the teachers, should be involved into the mentoring. So for that, the teacher has to be given the flexibility, and you should give the freedom to design your own curriculum. So I am hoping that the universities do not curb, put on restraints that no, these are the curriculums that will be taught, and research and innovation should be a part, of any new curriculum that SGT is taking up this first step, to start off and implement. So with these words, thank you so much for the patient hearing, and thank you for the SGT University for giving me an option.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful listening to you and more to your students, that how wonderfully the Cluster Innovation Center has given wings to students, and more so literally when they actually made an aeroplane with those wings. So I think the cluster is indeed doing a wonderful job. Congratulations and best wishes to both the mentors and the students. And now we move to the next talk of the session. That's by Professor Jyoti Sharma, Coordinator Meta University Program, University of Delhi.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Chaturvedi, sir. So basically, it's a platform where I'll be talking about some of the experiments which we have done under Meta University. अभी तक हम लोग काम करते रहे हैं सर के डायरेक्शन में, दिनेश सर के डायरेक्शन में. आज पहली बार प्रोबेबली मैं वो सब चीजें आप लोगों के सामने रख रही हूँ और सर के सामने भी पहली बार रख रही हूँ. So before talking about Meta University, in fact मैं आपको कुछ 2 मिनट में अपने बारे में बताती हूँ. मैं दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी की प्रोडक्ट रही हूँ, और जब मैं मास्टर्स कर रही थी DU से ऑनर्स मैथ ऑनर्स किया, मास्टर्स जब MA मैथ्स कर रहे थे, तो कंप्लीटली मैथ्स फन लविंग पर्सन. तो बहुत मैथ्स में फन करना, इस तरह के कॉम्पिटिशन्स रखते थे मास्टर्स में सर कि आज पूरा दिन सिर्फ मैथ्स में बात करेंगे, कोई और लैंग्वेज यूज नहीं करेंगे. अगर किसी को अपने बॉयफ्रेंड को लव लेटर भी लिखना है तो वो भी मैथ्स में लिखना है, कोई और लैंग्वेज अल्फाबेट यूज नहीं करना है. लेकिन उस दौरान एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट जो दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का था वो हमारी आर्ट्स फैकल्टी के साथ ही था. तो वन ऑफ द प्रोफेसर्स टोल्ड अस कि लड़कियों के लिए बीएड बहुत अच्छा होता है, ऑल ऑफ यू गो एंड ट्राई द एंट्रेंस एग्जाम. मुझे पहली बार पता चला कि एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट भी एक अलग डिपार्टमेंट होता है. सो वी वेंट फॉर द एंट्रेंस एग्जाम, क्वालिफाई हो गया. तो उन्होंने कहा कि 9 महीने का कोर्स होता है, करके वापस आ जाना, ये तो आपका अपना डिपार्टमेंट है, जस्ट डू योर बीएड डिग्री. पहले 4 महीने तो इट वाज अ पनिशमेंट. मुझे बिल्कुल समझ नहीं आ रहा था व्हाट वी वर डूइंग इन एजुकेशन. बट व्हेन वी वेंट फॉर teaching practice, so I was given grade 11 and I was asked to teach permutation, I think binomial theorem to grade 11 students. वो पहली बार मुझे ऐसे लगा कि जो टीचर पढ़ाता है, whatever I am teaching to my student, it does not go in straight line to my students, वो diversify हो सकता है, वो कुछ bounce back भी हो जाएगा, कुछ के दिमाग से बिल्कुल स्पेक्ट्रम से बाहर निकल जाएगा. और वो जो दिन था जब मुझे ये रियलाइज हुआ कि बच्चों को जो मैं पढ़ा रही हूँ उन्हें समझ नहीं आ रहा है, जो सो माई नॉलेज, माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज नॉट ट्रांसलेटिंग टू माई स्टूडेंट्स with the same intensity and in the same direction. Probably that was the time I decided that I will leave maths and I'll shift to education. बहुत restless time था, बहुत painful time था, वो सब struggle, ये सोचना कि क्लास के 43 स्टूडेंट्स को मैं कैसे पढ़ाऊं और कैसे समझाऊं। और सबसे बड़ी बात, जो मैथ्स में फैसिनेशन मुझे नजर आता है, वो स्टूडेंट्स में वो कैसे वो कन्विक्शन उन स्टूडेंट्स में डालो that maths is such a fun loving subject. So I did my BA, MA, MPhil, PhD from department, and then finally I started teaching B.Ed and B.Led courses in one of the Delhi University College. Again the same frustration. Because you are again bound by the curriculum, आपको ये पढ़ाना है, ऐसे करना है, और सबसे बड़ी बात है इंटरनल असेसमेंट का मार्क्स देना है, तो उसको भी नॉर्मलाइज कर देना है. Okay, but when I got this opportunity to join CIC during Chaturvedi sir's time, probably I realized this is the place I always wanted to be. तो CIC सिर्फ स्टूडेंट्स को विंग्स नहीं देता है, CIC टीचर्स को भी विंग्स देता है. शायद जो फ्रस्ट्रेशन मेरे अंदर इतना समय कॉलेज के दौरान था, एज अ टीचर था, एज अ स्टूडेंट था, प्रोबेबली मुझे लगा कि CIC में आकर जो मेरी इनर वॉइस थी वो रेजोनेट हो रही थी. व्हाट आई ऑलवेज वांटेड टू डू, ईदर एज अ मैथ्स एंथुसियास्ट और एज अ टीचर. So this is how I got into this program called Meta University Mathematics Education Program. So I'll quickly share these few slides so that I remain focused and I don't miss any important point. So first of all, Meta University is a culmination of not just one institute, it can be many institutes. In our experiment, there are 2 universities. So the one is Delhi University and Jamia Millia Islamia. Now within Delhi University, we are running this program at Cluster Innovation Center. And at Jamia, we are running this program under AJK, Mass Communication and Research Center. I'll come to this point. This is one of the leading media mass comm department in the country. So what Meta as a concept when we talk about? So first of all, if we are talking about mega institutional structure, and there is partnership between 2 or more than 2 existing institutes, So, but it is not just a virtual idea. It is a reality. It exists in real world, and I tell you how effectively it works, It empowers us in so many ways. It is not a system of divided responsibility. It is not something in a 4 years course, okay, you do 2 semesters here, you do 2 semesters in other university. No, it is not this. We bring synergy between systems and efforts and resource management. It is not an attempt to add parts to make a whole. It is an effort to collaborate, integrate, and generate new knowledge structures. Okay, so if you look at the NEP, as Shobha has already pointed out quite a few points, NEP has these 4 pillars, It talks about inclusivity. Meta University, inclusivity is the basis of Meta University, meta concept. It talks about optimization of resources. Yes, we do that. It talks about sustainable practices. We need to create systems which we can sustain for years and decades to come. And it diversifies the knowledge base, So when we started this program in 2013, so I remember the first orientation of the first batch. So here we were very enthusiastic that what we are going to do, because we have clarity, complete clarity what it is going to be. And we had director from MCRC, and he was a very well-known media person. And the sir said, okay, I'm really confused कि हम media को education के साथ कैसे जोड़ेंगे? So हमने कहा सर अभी शुरुआत करते हैं, कुछ हम आपसे सीखेंगे, कुछ आप हमसे सीखिएगा. So you know the idea was education अपने आप में education is a social construct. एजुकेशन सिर्फ क्लासरूम के अंदर बंद नहीं होता है, टेक्स्ट बुक्स के अंदर बंद नहीं होता है, करिकुलम गाइडलाइंस में फॉर्मलाइज नहीं होता है. अगर हम एजुकेशन, एक तरफ हम एजुकेशन की बात करें, एट द अदर एंड वी हैव मीडिया. मीडिया सबसे पॉपुलर मीन्स है कॉमन लोगों तक पहुंचने का. एंटरटेनमेंट करता है, नॉलेज देता है, इंफॉर्मेशन, करंट अफेयर्स, एवरीथिंग. तो अगर उसी को मीडिया के साथ मर्ज कर दिया जाए तो क्या बात है. तो हमने सबसे पहले फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर फर्स्ट बैच व्हाट वी डिड इज, हमने कहा सर, तो दे सेड कि हमारा जो मीडिया लैब है उसमें तो बहुत हाई एंड इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं, वो हम मेटा के स्टूडेंट्स को अभी नहीं दे सकते क्योंकि ये बच्चे तो इन कैमरा को हैंडल करने के लिए तैयार भी नहीं है, और इन कैमरास का जो कॉस्ट है वो 10-20 लाख रुपए है. फिर सर आप हमें क्या दे सकते हैं. सर ये तो हम ऐसे उनके कैंपस में घूम रहे थे तो उनका कम्युनिटी रेडियो का उनका रूम था. तो सर व्हाट इज दिस, कहते यहाँ से हम कम्युनिटी रेडियो का टेलीकास्ट करते हैं और इस ड्यूरेशन पर जनरली होता है. सर इसका रेडियस कितना है, ये करीबन 10 किलोमीटर्स के रेडियस को कवर करता है. फाइन सर, तो क्या हमें इसकी एक्सेस मिल सकती है. ही सेड यस यस, ये तो आप आराम से लीजिए. तो हमें तो बाहर से कुछ वॉलंटियर्स को बुलाना पड़ता है क्योंकि हमारे स्टूडेंट्स तो बहुत हाई एंड काम कर रहे होते हैं. वी स्टार्टेड एन ऑन एयर सीरीज ऑन पॉपुलराइजिंग मैथमेटिक्स अमंग मासेस, और वो हमने आफ्टरनून टाइम पर किया जब सब्जी वाला धूप में बैठा होता है कहीं पेड़ की छाया में, ट्रांजिस्टर उसके पास होता है और वो सब्जी बेच रहा है, टेलर अपने टेलरिंग की दुकान पर बैठा है, हाउसवाइफ अपने घरों में बैठी है. एंड वी स्टार्टेड वेरी वेरी सिंपल बेसिक थीम्स. यू नो, हमने इंडियन वुमन मैथमेटिशियंस के लाइव इंटरव्यूज किया, हम लोगों ने हमने मैथ्स इन एवरीडे लाइफ किया. एंड सो वी टुक दोज थीम्स विच कुड रिलेटेबल विद द कॉमन पीपल, और जिन्हें लगता था कि उनका मैथ्स, अब क्योंकि अब वो एडल्ट लाइफ में है, मैथ से उनकी जिंदगी का कोई लेना देना अब नहीं है. एंड दिस प्रोग्राम got an excellent feedback because we did social validity after this program. So that was the starting point. Jamia got confidence in us, and then there was no looking back. And after that there were lot of experiments by Jamia. Every year they used to come up with some new idea. So उन्होंने जो प्रोग्राम्स जो कोर्सेज स्टूडेंट्स के लिए शुरू किए, वो पहली बार उनके टीचर्स पढ़ा रहे थे. दे वर डीलिंग विद एडवर्टीजमेंट, they were dealing with film industry, they were dealing with glamorous world, and here we are talking about education to the poorest, education to the masses. उन्होंने हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को, मेटा के स्टूडेंट्स को script writing सिखाया. So what our students started doing is they started picking up very core critical challenges of classrooms. क्लासरूम में जेंडर बायसेस हो रहा है, जेंडर बायसेस नजर नहीं आ रहा है लेकिन टीचर की डे टू डे वोकैबुलरी में नजर आ रहा है, स्टूडेंट्स की बुलिंग में नजर आ रहा है, पेरेंट्स के एटीट्यूड में नजर आ रहा है कि बच्चों को कैसे एक्सपेक्टेशंस का प्रेशर है, जो बच्चों को हिडन प्रेशर बच्चों को किल कर रहा है लेकिन बच्चे बता नहीं पा रहे हैं. तो वो जो छोटे छोटे ऐसे अनसेट थीम्स थे जिनके बारे में शायद हम कभी सोचते नहीं हैं, आवर स्टूडेंट्स स्टार्टेड स्क्रिप्टिंग स्टोरीज ऑन दोज इश्यूज. पूरे के पूरे स्क्रिप्ट बनाते थे, डायलॉग लिखते थे, खुद एक्टिंग स्किल्स भी करते थे, कुछ हायर आर्टिस्ट लेते थे. दे लर्न हाउ टू डू द how to make films, how to handle camera. CIC में शूटिंग हो रहा है, किसी घर में शूटिंग हो रहा है, CIC के स्टेडियम में शूटिंग हो रहा है, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के किसी कॉलेज में शूटिंग हो रहा है, किसी क्लासरूम में शूटिंग हो रहा है. And they started making short films, you know. So now every year when they do this paper in Jamia Millia Islamia, MCRC, so they work in groups and they make small short movies which actually relate to very very critical issues of classroom transactions, जो शायद हमारे everyday teaching के अंदर highlight नहीं होते, लेकिन बच्चे उसको हर रोज daily basis पर suffer करते हैं. Then another problem, you know, एक paper जो शुरू किया गया, that was developmental journalism, you know. एजुकेशन में जब हम जर्नलिज्म की बात करते हैं, आप कभी भी न्यूज़पेपर के 1 महीने के न्यूज़पेपर को आप छोटा सा रिव्यू करके देखिएगा, एजुकेशन से रिलेटेड कितनी न्यूज़ आती हैं. स्कूल में कोई क्राइम हुआ, ये न्यूज़ आएगा. स्कूल में किसी तरह का करप्शन हुआ, ये न्यूज़ आ जाएगा. नर्सरी के एडमिशन्स होते हैं, पेरेंट्स स्ट्रगल करते हैं, ये न्यूज़ आएगा. लेकिन एजुकेशन को लेकर के न्यूज़ नहीं आते हैं. कितने एडिटोरियल्स आते हैं एक साल में, एक न्यूज़पेपर में एजुकेशन से रिलेटेड कितना एडिटोरियल होता है. आप स्कूल के आप घर से बाहर अभी निकलेंगे, होर्डिंग देखिएगा, वर्ल्ड स्कूल सो एंड सो ABC वर्ल्ड स्कूल, वर्ल्ड क्लास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. वी डिड सर्वे, पेरेंट्स का किया, टीचर्स का किया, स्कूल का किया. वर्ल्ड क्लास का क्या मतलब होता है? मैम वहां पर AC, सभी AC स्कूल है, क्लासरूम्स में AC है, 5-star कैंटीन है. इज इट वर्ल्ड क्लास? तो कहीं ना कहीं ये मिसकॉन्सेप्ट छोड़ना है, तोड़ना है, पेरेंट्स को एजुकेट करना है. सो डूइंग educated, informed, meaningful, knowledgeable journalism in education is a big responsibility for any person who is dealing with education. So our students started working on that. Similarly, puppetry जब हम चाइल्डहुड में होते थे तब करते थे, और आज के बच्चे तो जो गैजेट्स के साथ खेलते हैं पपेट्री को जानते भी नहीं है. तो जामिया taught one full paper. They created this paper, Puppetry in Education. Our students created puppets from वेस्ट मटेरियल. मिजोरम के कल्चर को लेकर के, उनके ड्रेस को लेकर के, वहां का नॉर्थ ईस्ट का बना रहे हैं, किसी ने बंगाल का बनाया. They conducted workshops for students in primary grade, and it was a great success. So what I'm trying to say, when we started, it was only an idea. But as we grew, there is no looking back. तो ये तो मैंने अभी आपको MCRC का स्टोरी बताया. जब उन्होंने शुरू किया था तो there were apprehensions, there were concerns, but now they have dedicated courses. Our students are expert in developing MOOCs. हमारे DU के टीचर्स को MOOCs बनाना अभी नहीं आता है, but our students do training for teachers, DU teachers, how to design MOOCs, you know. So, okay, so when we started this program, so these were the logistics arrangements which we did. So collaboration, adaptation, modifications, you know. So starting from how we are going to implement this to taking approvals from various institutes and various bodies. This is the format of degree, you know, the unique degree of its own kind in the country, where you have 2 registrars, 2 vice chancellors, and 3 languages, English, Hindi, Urdu. Okay? So this is how it started. You know, this is the framework of this program. So heavily based on research and innovation. This is how we work. This is the strategy of our pedagogy. We reboot to the problems, diversify, expand, situate in the problem, and then accelerate the learning. I'll quickly move. So what we have, so we take real-time classroom issues, you know. First, when in the beginning we used to go to schools, tell us your problems. We ask our students, you please sit in the classrooms, do observations, and identify the problems. And now we have institutes, not just institutes, we have bodies like Navodaya Vidyalaya, CBSE, NCRT, SCRT. They come to us and they say, okay, हमारे को अपने टीचर्स को ये ट्रेनिंग करवाना है, क्या आप CIC क्या हमारी मदद करेगा? हम कहते हैं फाइन, हम स्ट्रक्चर बनाते हैं, हम पूरा we sit together with our students, we plan the entire structure, we design very minutely, and then we hand it over to our students. They conduct workshops, and I remember JNV commissioner told us कि हमारे को मैम वो जो 2 लड़कों ने किया था ना, उन लड़कों को दोबारा दे दीजिए. मैंने कहा सर एक यूएस में पीएचडी कर रहा है, एक कनाडा में कर रहा है, I can't bring them here. Okay. What we do, we bring 360-degree pedagogical intervention. When I'm saying 360 degree, first of all, we tell teachers, okay, आपका बच्चा अगर कैलकुलस में ये नहीं समझ है, स्टूडेंट्स ट्रिग्नोमेट्री की आइडेंटिटीज आप बेशक 100 ट्रिग्नोमेट्री के आइडेंटिटीज के नोट्स बनाकर बच्चे को दे दीजिए, दे आर गोइंग टू मेक प्रॉब्लम. एक आइडेंटिटी है, एक ही फॉर्मूला से यूनिट सर्कल से जनरेट होता है, उसी आइडेंटिटी को आप ट्वीक करते जाइए, आप 100 कह रहे हैं 200 बन जाएगा, 1000 बन जाएगा. तो स्टूडेंट्स को प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग स्ट्रैटेजी सिखाना है. तो आप प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई करने में उनकी मदद करते हैं, आप उसके सॉल्यूशन में मदद करते हैं, और फिर आप उनको पूरा का पूरा इम्पैक्ट करके बताते हैं, दिस इज हाउ इट वर्क्स एंड आर यू सेटिस्फाइड नाउ. We do lots of hands-on, minds-on. So there is a complete balance. So we have classroom here and lab here. तो बच्चे यहाँ पढ़ते हैं, यहाँ लैब में काम करते हैं. This is how we go. सर मुझे देख रहे हैं तो मुझे समझ आ रहा है. Okay, so these are some of the pedagogical innovations. आप ये मान के चलिए, देखिए इतने साल का 2011 से शुरू हुआ, 22 आ गया, 11 साल के एक्सपीरियंस को, पैशन को, हार्ड वर्क को इतना कम टाइम में एक्सप्रेस करना डेफिनेटली मुश्किल है. बट एनीवे, सो आई नाउ share. Okay, now another thing. So हम बहुत अपने करिकुलम में बहुत से मॉडिफिकेशंस करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल वी हैव अ लवली कोर्स, ऐसे एजुकेशन एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हमारा एक कोर्स है, सस्टेनेबल एजुकेशन हमारा एक पेपर है, लर्निंग वेज ऑफ मैथमेटिकल राइटिंग, यू नो. अच्छा मैथ्स में भी एलिगेंस होती है, मैथ्स में भी ब्यूटी होती है. व्हाट इज अ गुड मैथमेटिकल डेफिनेशन, व्हाट मेक्स अ गुड प्रूफ, व्हाट इज एन एलिगेंट सॉल्यूशन, यू नो. ये पूरा हमारा एक पेपर है. ओके, एंड यू नो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स सबसे ज्यादा उनकी डिमांड है कंटेंट राइटिंग. बायजू से लेकर के आप मान के चलिए जितने भी लीडिंग एडटेक कंपनीज हैं, हमारे स्टूडेंट्स की वहां डिमांड है. और वो फोन आते हैं, हम कहते हैं अब मेरे पास स्टूडेंट नहीं है. एक्चुअली क्या होता है, जब तक वो 4th सेमेस्टर में होते हैं डिमांड पहले आना शुरू हो जाता है, स्टूडेंट्स की बुकिंग हो जाती है, और अब बच्चे इतने कॉन्फिडेंट हो गए, कहते हैं मैम पहले पे पैकेज बताइए. सो यू नो, तो वो जो पेपर है इट हेल्प्स देम टू राइट वेरी प्रिसाइसली, यू नो. ओके, सो आई जस्ट हमारे स्टूडेंट्स पीएचडी करने के लिए दे आर द फर्स्ट एंड इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. सी, अगर हम यूजीसी नेट का जो, क्योंकि मास्टर्स प्रोग्राम है, तो इनको दे आर क्वालिफाइड टू बिकम कॉलेज टीचर्स, और उसके लिए नेशनल एलिजिबिलिटी टेस्ट उनके लिए पास करना जरूरी होता है. इफ यू कंपेयर टू एनी अदर इंस्टीट्यूट, अगर हम देखें हमारे जो स्टूडेंट्स का रेट है, एवरी ईयर 50 to 60% स्टूडेंट्स क्वालिफाई यूजीसी नेट एग्जाम. ओके, these are some of the institutes where they are doing higher studies, or they are absorbing all the big tech companies. They are working, they are serving as consultants in NCERT, SCERT, CBSE. Okay, these are some of the models, hands-on models they have done. We have startups, gamification पर एक पूरा startup है. Then we have the Maths Plaza पर एक बच्चों का startup है. These are some of the mathematical games which are designed. They are available on Amazon for sale. This is one of the gifted education program which sir had already talked about. This is a startup जो साउथ दिल्ली के अंदर मैथ्स को, प्राइमरी मैथ्स के अंदर इनोवेटिव पेडागोजी पर काम करते हैं. दे आर वन ऑफ द मोस्ट पॉपुलर मैथ लर्निंग सेंटर इन साउथ दिल्ली. These are some of the institutes. Okay, these are some of the mathematical games which was ये स्पेशल बच्चों के लिए, ब्लाइंड्स के लिए, ऑटिस्टिक स्टूडेंट्स के लिए. So these are some of the activities probably I can talk about. There can be many, but I'll stop here. Okay, yeah, before that I'll just okay, fine. So there are you all are welcome to visit the center to have first-hand experience of all these pictures or models which I'm sharing here. This is our Twitter handle, so whenever you have time, you can visit to see what we all do, because we try to share our small learning experiences almost on everyday basis on this. So this is all about CIC and Meta University in a small brief time, whatever we have given. But definitely you all are welcome to visit the center to get first-hand experience. So as in the beginning, Dinesh sir has told, then other speakers, Chaturvedi sir, Professor Shobha, NEP is not just a virtual idea, NEP is not just a vision. NEP is a reality. It is already happening. So we do have a robust working model, successful model. It can be translated. It just requires dedication, commitment, and goal orientation. So, and probably all of us are here to do that. Thank you, SGT, for this opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for your patience hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. The talk was indeed full of passion and the love for teaching and learning. I think the paradox is that we have a galaxy of professors and we are asking them to speak less. So that is not something humanly possible for any academician, because once they have the audience and the mic, I think 45 minutes is their birthright.
Are you also a professor?
Yes, sir. So I have been rightly pointed out by Dinesh sir that I also tend to take some of the time of our speakers. And now we proceed on to our next speaker, Professor Vikas Dhawan, Pro Vice Chancellor Academics, SGT University. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming sir.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and students and esteemed professors. See, I am a total mismatch to this session, because this was basically to highlight the cluster experiments, innovation in teaching that have been done by Delhi University. But yes, I'll put up my idea of this. Basically, the entire education system of India needs a revamp, and thankfully this new education policy is there, which gives us that freedom to design the curriculum. Let me put it honestly, since my childhood I've been feeling that, in higher education we start speaking about innovation, sustainability, those big short words that every politician, every academician uses nowadays. But have you ever thought about that when a child goes in class nursery and he is being taught 2 + 2, and teacher stresses upon it is 4. And if a child writes 5, he is given 0 marks. Nobody asks him what logic you have used, why you have answered 5. There's a meme going around that one student said 20,000 plus 20,000 is 0. So a professor like me asked that guy how it is 0. He said, I bought a buffalo of 20,000, another buffalo of 20,000, both died, so end result is 0. I think logic is very clear. So in his eyes, the 0 answer is very correct. Had it been the pedagogy since our childhood, we could have expected good innovations at international level in higher education. So when we kill the innovation right at the initial stage, in the childhood stage, and we stress upon the rotten memory, and then we ask him to cram it up and answer it in the classes, and all of a sudden the guy lands up in a college and the professor starts talking about innovation and research, talks about new education policy, the freedom you have, design your degree. I was listening to a few of the young lads from Delhi University who have become entrepreneurs. It was very mind-boggling, and it was very interesting, because entrepreneurship is something which I love from core of my heart. Had I not been a professor, I would have been an entrepreneur definitely. But the point is, how many? We talk about that Indian universities don't attain the standards of international level. I think the primary education itself has to be revamped first. And then you can get kids who are actually, alarming in a sense that they will ring bell in your brains and then ask you to perform. I think the capacity building of a faculty is totally in the hands of the kids. You'll get sharp kids, they'll put good questions to you and you will have to work hard. And, with certain innovations and gadgets going on, probably in 2024 you will have iPhone, Apple is launching goggles which will have Google in them. I have been telling in SGT, it will be very difficult for you to teach on the board. The child will tell you there and then, sir, this is something which is outdated and new innovations have come down. Because he is already accessing the entire Google in his eyes and you are not able to see even. So it is in his specs, those simple microphones inbuilt in the goggles itself. So my point is very clear that if we allow this child to answer in his own thought process and we give him freedom at the school level itself, don't put restrictions to attendance, then what will happen is you will have good innovative kids in higher education. But let me put a scenario to you. In Indian education, what happens is you are very strict in school education, very, very strict parent-teacher meeting, calling the parent on every indisciplinary act. If he gets lower marks, every month you have a parent-teacher meeting, parents landing up in schools, teacher telling them, your guy is not doing this, he is not doing his homework, his copies are not full. So does the homework copies, they suffice to the education? Are we doing justice to those kids? No. So when he lands up in a college, all of a sudden he gets that freedom. Okay, I have to attend classes on my own. He will start bunking classes. He knows that 75% of the attendance, simple mathematics. 3 lectures out of 4 are mandatory to attend. He'll bunk and go to a film because all of a sudden, you get that freedom. So I normally am fond of having a pet at my home. If you leash your dog, suppose you keep on leashing your dog, what will happen? Immediately you will unleash him, he will run off. He won't listen to your command. So the point is, if you give freedom to the child, he will become innovative. He will think of his career. He will design his degree. He will become crisp in his ideas. I normally say that 5C model told by Indra Noori is very important. 5 C's is, communication, courage and confidence, competence, consistency, and the 5th C is compass that teaches you integrity. So if you don't have good communication, you cannot become a good leader. If you have got good communication, but you don't have courage to speak, even then you are not a good leader. If you don't have competence in you, and you don't work hard to gain competence every day, even then you cannot be a good leader. And if you are not consistent in learning, even then you are outdated. And if you are not loyal, because compass always points towards north, wherever you take it across the globe. So it will always point towards north. So that shows the loyalty towards the organization in which you are working. And I think new education policy somewhere down the line, indirectly it gives us 5 C's that you have to induct these 5 C's into your kids. Make them to learn lifelong skills. I talk about lifelong skills, not only those skills which are needed by industry. And to be honest, I was speaking in one of the forums, I think last month, and we had a debate because one of the gentlemen was again and again stressing that NEP talks about placements, industry skills, this and that, blah, blah. But normally, on the stage, people who come down on the stage, I'm not talking about this session because we have got esteemed speakers who have been, guiding force behind this new education policy. But people talk about placements. Mind it, if you Google up NEP on your mobiles right now also, search the word placement. Placement word is not used even single time in the entire new education policy. It does talk about skilling, but it does not talk about placements. If you go back to our Gurukul system, Shri Ram or maybe Arjuna, they were all a part of Gurukul school. They were taught about lifelong skills. They were taught about skills which are needed to live in a healthy society, to be ethical, to be moralistic, and to be a good citizen of the country, whatever the name at that point of time India was known by. So this is because, why I say this, because when Arjun was in exile, he had learned about music and dance. So that is how he could survive. We all know the story. So the point is, let us develop an education system which actually allows the child to explore, allows him to design the degree, and allows to, the child to be innovative in a way that, yes, this is what I want to do. I normally say that why doctors are only taught those medical subjects, why not music? We had a band, the most popular rock band in India by doctors, and they were, everywhere during the MTV times. So if a child wants to become a musician, why to press him to become a doctor? Our families in India need to be, a bit liberal in a way that if a guy says, I want to become a good artist, so, the father will always say, no, we have a history of doctors and engineers, you better choose one of these, and this is the only choice you will have. So new education policy comes down for the help of such kids. If a father is strict, but yes, when you come down to the institute, you can learn music along with your medical science subjects. So this is what we have done in SGT. We have given the students almost 30% of the choice to the subjects. Yes, core and departmental electives they are choosing, like ma'am was telling. And on the same pattern, we have 30% subjects which the student can choose on his own. He can choose any subject. If that subject is not available in our umbrella, the student can select it through MOOCs or maybe from other university online, and then we give him credits. This is what we have introduced. I think most of those professors are here from SGT University. You can consult them. This we have already introduced at SGT. And yes, because cluster education means creating a cluster, it may be a cluster of industries with the education systems or a nearby education system. Yesterday I was with the Honorable Dinesh, and this is what I was telling, that my aim is that there should be a cluster of few universities coming down whereby one university is good at arts, our university is good at medical, some university is good at engineering. Let us combine together and design one degree whereby a child can learn, portions of that, whatever he needs. And he can design his degree and maybe learn the subjects from professors who have, attained a height in that particular field. So this is what is the aim that we are working upon. And yes, we have made a panel of industries also. We call it an Industrial Advisory Board, whereby the industry meetings are held regularly nowadays. And we consult the industry and we take the suggestions and make changes to the curriculum. We have also introduced one of the alumni to be compulsory in the Board of Studies, whereby alumni can come down, like I was listening to these kids, and they can say, yes, this is what you were teaching and this is not of importance to us. It is no longer important to us when we go there and work for our real life skills. So they can actually, contribute to the curriculum refinement in the Board of Studies also. I think alumni being in Board of Studies is very important because he is the actual person who will give you feedback. This is what you have taught, sir, and this is almost, useless to us when we land up in our actual real life. So the point that has been raised by new education policy is I am very happy that government has actually officially introduced this document after a good experiment done by Delhi University under the leadership of our Honorable Dr. Dinesh Singh ji, who actually happens to be our distinguished professor also now. So I'm proud to say, and I'm smiling that yes, now we have Dinesh sir also and Madan sir also with us, and let us do this experiment here also, sir. So probably they are setting up CLIck also, that is Center for Lateral Innovation in SGT. So whereby the same thing that was done Delhi University long back in 2011, try to repeat the history and see that it happens in SGT University also. And one more initiative we are trying to do is we are trying to do the capacity building of the faculty, because I personally feel that the people who are teaching the students or mentoring the students or facilitating the students to design their career, they also need certain skill sets. They need to be upgraded. And I was with one of the industry professionals last Saturday, and one thing came was that go back to school, come back from school, go back to school, come back from school. This is a new pattern industries are going to follow in the near future. That means every 2 years or 3 years the technology is completely changed and revamped. You have a new technology. So even the engineers or the doctors or whosoever the guys are, maybe from social sciences or from other fields who are working with the corporate sector nowadays. Even the corporate feels that their skill sets get outdated and they need to be, upskilled. So the new word is skilling, reskilling and upskilling, which we actually designed this logo in SGT, slogan, sorry. Because even if you are a thorough professional, you may be working in that field for 10 years. But nowadays, what industry life cycle is not more than 5 years. Earlier, the industry was set up and it could sustain for 50 years. But now with growing technology, it cannot sustain more than 5 years if they don't upskill themselves. And probably it is said that next 5 years, the life cycle of industry will become 3 years. So if the life cycle is 3 years, it means every 3 years you need to revamp yourself and, you buckle it up and get those skills which are needed for that present day. So that is the theme of new education policy also, and it talks about skilling and it talks about ethical and moralistic education, talks about holistic education whereby the uniqueness of the child is not killed. That is what I was telling, that if a doctor wants to learn music also, he should be allowed to do that. If an engineer wants to learn art, he should be allowed to do that. So probably Delhi University has done it successfully, and we at SGT are in the initial budding stage, and yes, we have given the options to the students, and let us see that we do it successfully like they have done. And thank you for giving me such a time, because I think I was given only 20 minutes, so I think I have completely done justice to this dais which was given to me. Thank you very much.
With your permission, can I just say something for 2 minutes?
Sure, sir.
Not going to take more than 2 minutes.
Actually, we needed someone to chair, sir. Who better than a volunteer? And that too, Professor Dinesh Singh himself. Can we have a big round of applause?
You're doing a great job here. You know that? You don't need anyone. I'm not going to take more than 2 minutes, but I just wanted to say something. These are very enlightened people. और ये भले लोग हैं, तो आपको उसके पीछे जो मेहनत दर्द होता है उसके बारे में ये नहीं बताते हैं. I want the young here, इसलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि जो young लोग हैं, you must understand that nothing comes without a price. कीमत चुकानी पड़ती है और चुका लोगे तो नतीजे मिलते हैं. जब पहली बार इनोवेशन सेंटर की परिकल्पना की गई, तब उस समय शोभा, ज्योति, ये लोग अभी नहीं जुड़े थे, मदन जी और हम थे, 2-3 और अच्छे लोग थे. हम आपस में मंत्रणा कर रहे थे, आनंद जी थे, शायद चले गए हैं. उसके पीछे जो हमारी सोच थी, बड़े स्वाधीनता से हमने बनाई थी, और उसको दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय के जो औपचारिक संस्थाएं हैं, एकेडमिक काउंसिल, एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल, उनसे पारित कराना था. क्या नहीं हम लोगों को सहना पड़ा उनको पार कराने के लिए. यहां तक कि टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया और ऐसे अखबारों ने फ्रंट पेज पे लिखा दिया कि इनोवेशन सेंटर का जो डॉक्यूमेंट है ये प्लेजराइज्ड है. तब वो दिन था 2011 का और आज है 2022. इन 11 साल में मुझे कहीं भी कोई संस्था नहीं मिली जो इसकी तरह है. तो हमने कहां से प्लेजराइज किया था, क्या नहीं किया, हमारे अखबारों ने भी निकाल दिया. विरोध तो हर प्रकार से होता है. जब मेटा यूनिवर्सिटी की बात आई तो तब तक हम स्थापित हो चुके थे. कहां से हमें दिक्कत आई, शोभा ने और ज्योति ने बताया कि स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ के कहां नहीं विश्व में पीएचडी कर रहे हैं, कहां इनको नहीं करने दिया जा रहा. आपको मालूम है, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट में वो नहीं, अभी तक नहीं करने देते उनको पीएचडी, और बाकी सारी दुनिया पीएचडी करा रही है. आई वॉन्ट द यंग टू थिंक, मैं आपको संबोधित कर रहा हूं, हमारा समय जा रहा है. बी रेडी फॉर अ फाइट. किसी चीज में आस्था रखते हो ना तो कीमत चुकाओ उसके लिए. वही तुम्हारा ईश्वर, वही धर्म बन जाएगा, वो खरा उतरेगा. सो डोंट टेक थिंग्स लाइटली कि इन्होंने बताया तो दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी थी तो बड़ा आसान था, ऐसा कुछ नहीं था। एजुकेशन काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया कहलाता है, क्या है वो संस्था, मैं भूल रहा हूं, उनके साथ हम इतना उलझे कि इसको मान्यता दे दो, मास्टर्स इन मैथ एजुकेशन को। और उसमें जितने लोग थे, उसके जो चेयरमैन थे वो मेरे घनिष्ठ मित्र हैं, मेरे साथ 5 साल कॉलेज में पढ़ाई की है उन्होंने, बेचारे वे भी लगे रहे कि हम करा दें, इसको दे दे। नहीं होने दिया दलालों ने, नहीं होने दिया, नहीं मिली हमको उनसे मान्यता। फर्क नहीं पड़ता, समाज पहचानता है इसको। और जहां तक मुझे याद है, ज्योति जो पहला या दूसरा बैच था जिसमें शाजर वगैरह थे, वो तो सारे के सारे एंटरप्रेन्योर बन गए, कोई गया ही नहीं नौकरी में, सब एंटरप्रेन्योर बन गए। और अभी मैं आई एम एडवाइसिंग अ कंट्री, जाके राजा ने कुछ दायित्व दिया कि कुछ हमारे लिए करवा दीजिए एजुकेशन में, तो मैंने एक ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड इंटरव्यू कराया बाय प्राइवेट वर्ड ऑफ माउथ, यही इंडिया इंटरनेशनल सेंटर में। तमाम लोग आए, लेकिन हम थे, मदन जी थे। चयन किसका हुआ, बहुत लोग आए थे अलग अलग जगह से, ये इनोवेशन सेंटर की एक छात्रा थी, उसका हुआ। क्या सोच थी उसकी, तबीयत खुश हो गई, ये सब सार्थक रहा जो किया। और आखिर की बात कि हम अपने में सोचते हैं, विकास कह रहे थे कि विकास कल मुझसे चर्चा भी कर रहे थे और संस्थाओं के साथ, अड़चन इतनी आती है। जामिया के साथ जब मैंने बात की, मैं चाहता था कि जामिया को पकड़े, क्योंकि मास में वो बहुत, मास कम्युनिकेशन में बहुत अच्छे हैं, पर वो नहीं चाहते थे। उनको लगता था ये हमारा इतना एक्सक्लूसिव प्रोग्राम है, हमारे बच्चे मेहनत करके कंपटीशन से आते हैं, ये आके मुफ्त में ले जाएंगे। उन्होंने मना कर दिया, नहीं करेंगे। तो वहां पर जो संस्था का अध्यक्ष होता है ना, उसकी भूमिका हमेशा मजबूत रहती है। जामिया के वाइस चांसलर थे नजीब जंग साहब, मैंने उनको फोन किया एक दिन दर्द भरी आवाज में, उन्होंने कहा कल सुबह भेज दो, सब हो जाएगा। उन्होंने ऑर्डर निकाला, हो गया। अब वो लोग जो मास कम्युनिकेशन वाले हैं, इसकी कीमत समझ रहे हैं। ये सारी अड़चनें आएंगी, घबराना मत, ये भारतवर्ष है, आप ही लोग इसका भविष्य ऐसे ही कार्यक्रमों से उज्जवल बनाएंगे। मैं ये चाहता था कि बता दूं, ये लोग भले लोग नहीं बताएंगे किस तरह के टकराव हुए, क्या हुआ, मैं बता रहा हूं, बट बी रेडी फॉर द फाइट, उसी में एक आनंद है। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, sir. And I think it was actually essential that we know the entire hard work behind these success stories. The professors on the stage deserve a big round of applause. May I now request Professor Vikas Dhawan, Pro-Vice Chancellor Academics, SGT University, to kindly felicitate the speakers of this session. Here we have the mementos. Thank you, ma'am. I think मैम तब पास हुए थे जब मैम के स्टूडेंट्स ने आज आके स्टोरी सुनाई थी. She felt so proud, like every academician. And I think can we have those students for the picture as well, if they're here? Can you all join us? You, all four of you. I know one of you couldn't speak because of the shortage of time, but please, you're welcome. And we're really sorry for as we're running short of time, but I think we can have a nice group picture. Dinesh sir, please join us. It would be a privilege. So this is one picture these students are going to cherish forever.
They'll be in the front.
Specs on this, if you can just
I'll just. I request Vikas Dhawan sir to kindly felicitate the students. Can we have all of you on the stage, please? We have Pankaj Baranwal, Gitansh Saxena, Piyush Yadav, and Chhapa Shri Vinay. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a little announcement. Ma'am has misplaced her specs. If oh ma'am, that's wonderful. So ladies and gentlemen, here we take a quick break for a cup of tea, and then we are back here in the next 10 minutes for our next session. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience.